Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 5, the final, trust me, of the 145-year-old violin neck reset project. Okay, so I had said at the beginning of part 4 that that should have been the last episode of this project. And it would have been had it not been for what happened after that. So the repair itself, the whole project went really well. It was really easy to get the neck out, just a bit of a wiggle with it by hand, out it popped. And cleaning up all the glue, that was quite time consuming, but it was relatively straightforward. So cleaning up the glue on the neck heel and in the neck pocket of the body, and then gluing the neck back in, making sure it was straight on all axes, and clamping it up using my rubber bands and a single G clamp, I guess, F clamp. I don't know what note it is. And then in the final episode, after making up some new polish and polishing the whole thing with my new boiled linseed oil and beeswax polish, I rebuilt the thing, or put it all back together, put all the strings on, and tuned the strings up to tension. And it all went really well, no problems at all. So I then hung the violin on one of my, can't see it from here, one of my racks at the side of the shop, and left it overnight. Then, when I came in the next day, I had a look at the violin, and the neck joint repair had failed. It had broken away, done exactly the same thing again. Of course, I was a little annoyed. let's leave it at that. I mean, it does happen sometimes. It's rare, to be honest, but it does occasionally happen. And the thing is with violins, as I said during that video series, it's a very, very small joint, so there's not much gluing area, and there's quite a lot of tension on a violin when it's tuned up to full pitch. Now, I'm going to admit it was my mistake. Of course it was my mistake. I did the repair and it failed. So and my theory as to why it failed was not that it didn't have enough glue in the joint. There was more than enough glue in the joint, because you actually don't need as much glue as you might think. And you know, the clamping that I did was absolutely fine. There was no problems there. And I said that I'd left it several hours before putting the thing back together. Well, I had. But I think that was the problem. I don't think it was long enough. So I basically had to remove the neck again and completely redo the whole job. Now, I didn't record it again because it was exactly the same thing as the first time, and I just needed to get on with it. But, you know, I was planning right from that stage that I was going to do this follow-up video. So, the repair I'd done had failed. Now, like I said, that's rare, but it does happen. And, you know, I told the customer even before I began the job, I said, you know, any work I do on this instrument or any instrument has a lifetime guarantee. Now what that means is if the repairs that I do fail, whether it's next week, next month, next year, or 10 years from now, I will redo it free of charge. That's how confident I am in my work. So my theory is that I'd put it back together and strung it up too soon. I did leave it several hours before putting the strings on, 4 or 5 hours at least, probably more. And you know, when I put the strings on, I carefully and gradually, but brought them up to full tension. I think those two things combined, putting it back together too early and putting the strings up to full tension too early, was, in my opinion, what made the repair fail. So, like I said, I pulled the neck out and redid the whole thing. I had to clean up all the glue and literally do the whole job again. And I did notice when I was removing the glue that it was still kind of sticky, tacky. It wasn't, you know, hard. So that just kind of reiterated what I already thought, was that I just put it together and tuned it up too soon. So I redid the job, and then I left it for probably 4 or 5 days before I put it back together. That way ensuring that the glue was set. You know, so the first time I left it a few hours, second time several days, like I said, probably 4 or 5 days before I did anything else to it. And when I did put the strings back on, I didn't bring them up to full tension. I brought them up to 3 steps below normal pitch of a violin. So, have I got the piece of paper here somewhere? I can't remember where it is now. Is that it? Yeah, okay, so for the initial tuning, so the normal tuning for a violin is G-D-A-E. G-D-A-E. So for the first tuning, I brought it up to D-A-E-B, which is 3 steps below normal violin tuning. I left it like that for a day. Then the next day, I tuned it up another step to E, B, F, C. Left it for another day. Then the next day, I tuned it up another step to F, C, G, D. Guess what? I left it another day. And then the next day, I tuned it up a half step. So it was G flat, D flat, A flat, E flat. Yes, left it for another day. And then on the last day, I tuned it up to full pitch, G-D-A-E, and that was yesterday. So, you know, I've been well over a week doing this job again. And, you know, once I contacted the customer and told him that the repair had failed and I was having to do it again, he did say, you know, that he was in no rush to get this instrument back, which was good because it meant that I had the time to do this gradually and the way I should have done it the first time. So, like I said, I left it several days after redoing the joint, and then when I did put the strings on, I tuned them up 3 steps below. Next day, 2 steps below. Next day, a step below. The next day, half a step below, and then the following day, up to full pitch. And like I said, that was yesterday, and I've been checking it probably every hour or so, and it's been over 24 hours now, probably 30 plus hours, since it's been up to full tension. So there it is, all together, and I'll put the chin rest on now as well. So that is now tuned up to full pitch. G-D-A-E. And so far, the neck heel joint is holding up. It hasn't moved at all, not even 1 trillimeter. Has not moved at all. And you know, I did it the right way this time. I left it several days before tuning it up, and then gradually tuned it up to pitch over several days. And you know, with hindsight, that's what I should have done the first time, because you know, as I said, the neck joint in a violin is so small. You know, you really don't have a lot of gluing surface, so you need to make sure it's done properly. And this time I did. So you know, this is a confession video. I never, you know, cover up my mistakes. I always admit to any mistakes I made, and I did make a mistake. I rushed it. I did it far too quickly. If I'd left it a few days the first time, it would have been fine, I'm sure. You know, there was nothing wrong with the repair I did. You know, I have confidence in my work. I'd done the repair properly, and I just strung it and tuned it too soon, not giving the joint time to properly set. So I did the exact same job second time round, exactly the same, didn't change anything, but you know, made sure I left it several days, a week or more, before bringing the thing up to full pitch. And like I said, it's been sort of 30 plus hours now. close to 36 hours now, and it's holding absolutely fine. And you know, it was a much shorter time than this the first time round when it failed. So I'm pretty sure well, I've got it this time. Well, I have got it. And like I said, I told the customer lifetime guarantee on this repair. So if it does fail any time in the future, I will redo it free of charge. That's the confidence I have in my work. And also, I just think that's the right thing to do. If you do any kind of repair on anything for any customer, and that repair fails, you've got to put it right. There's no good you saying, oh well, it is what it is, or you know, trying to charge them again. Absolutely not. And people that do that, I think they're wrong. You know, it's if you have confidence in your own work, you should be able to guarantee it for life, or at least, you know, the lifetime of the life expectancy of whatever it is you're working on. You know, if it's car components, then they have a shelf life, if you like. But you know, this thing has stood the test of time for 1.5 centuries. Yeah, so you know, if I do any repairs on something of this age, or even if it's, you know, 1.5 days old, I've got to guarantee my work, and I've got to, you know, put right any mistakes. So yeah, I admit to it, I made a mistake, not with the work itself, but you know, rushing, putting it back together and tuning it up. So this time I left it a decent amount of time, tuned it up gradually over several days, and the result is not perfection, but it's pretty good. And I've contacted the customer again today. Today is Saturday. He's coming to pick it up on Monday, so that still gives me, you know, another 36 hours to make sure this thing is, you know, sound. But it will be. You know, it's just, like I said, I rushed it the first time. I've done it properly this time, and you know, I shouldn't be making mistakes like that at this stage in my, I'm not going to say career, but career, if you like. You know, I've been doing this for quite a few years, and that was a schoolboy error, really. But I have, you know, I have done many repairs like this before on several different instruments, and I've strung it up and it's been fine. I was just unlucky this time. So there it is. This is the final episode of this 145-year-old violin neck reset project, and you know, it's come out looking so nice. I mean, it doesn't look like a new violin because it's not a new violin, and if it did look new, it would look ridiculous. Oh, incidentally, I've did some research on these violins, and somewhere, let me just grab a piece of paper. Okay, so the manufacturer of this, or builder of this violin, is a French guy, or was a French guy, called Jean-Baptiste Vuillam. I'm not sure of the pronunciation. Jean-Baptiste Vuillam of Paris. And you know, I've been doing quite a bit of research on these violins made by that guy, and he was a luthier and violin builder in the late 19th century. I'm not sure of the exact, you know, years that he was operating, but late 19th century anyway. And one thing I did find out is these are certainly not the original tuners. I didn't think they would be, but they are old tuners. They're not original violin style tuners, but they have some age to them, and they look right on here. But like I said, I was doing some research on these violins made by this guy, and the value of his violins range from, now wait for this, range from about $200 to around $200,000, depending on, you know, which model and era and everything else. So yeah, so the violins made by the maker of this violin, they range in value anything from $200 to $200,000. Now, luckily, and I don't know how, I found the exact match of this model. Now, on the label inside, you won't be able to see it, but I wrote it down. It's got the, you know, this is what's written on the label, and it's got a number there as well. And I don't know if that's a serial number or a model number, but I found that online. Now, does that relate to this exact instrument, or is it like a line of them, or a batch of them? I don't know. But so I found the exact match to this online, and it's valued at $2,000. So, you know, it was this one, either this exact one, or this is one of a batch, or you know, a series of them from a particular time. Maybe they all got the same number, I don't know. Or maybe that number is specific to this violin. I don't know. But, like I said, I found the exact match to the label online, and that violin, whether it's this one or, you know, like I said, one of a batch, valued at around $2,000. Now, I know from the customer, the owner, he did not pay $2,000 for this instrument. Quite a bit less. So he got some pretty good value for his money there. Now, like I said, it's not the original tuners on here, which will have devalued it somewhat. Oh, excuse me, I'm no expert on violins, so I can't say how much that would have devalued it, but some. But either way, this violin I'm holding in my hand right now, a 145-year-old violin, is worth an absolute minimum of $1,000. Minimum. Guaranteed. You know, maybe a bit more. Maybe up towards the top end of the value, despite these tuners. I don't know. I know that will have reduced the value somewhat, but this is worth somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 US. Nice. And I've got to say, this is the oldest and the most expensive instrument I have ever worked on, up till now. Anyway, so that is the end of this series, believe me. Like I said, the customer owner is picking it up on Monday. He's bringing his daughter with him as well, who plays the violin. So, you know, maybe if things work out, we'll capture a little bit of video of her playing it and upload it for you. So that'll be a nice follow-up to this follow-up. Okay, so I keep saying that my next project will be my electric bass guitar, but I'm not sure right now. More on that when I start my next project, whether it be the bass or something else. I'm not sure yet. I've had a contact from another customer. Something else may be happening, but not sure yet, so I won't say any more on that yet. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.